Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's week 2 on the Jupiter 2. This week we will get all of the top alcoves done, maybe even get the whole ship finished. But I wanted to show you something that progressed over the weekend. Yes, my shipment of 1 minute epoxy came in, and that's all of it right there. That's a lot of 1 minute epoxy. This will be enough for at least a couple of ships. So I shan't be whining about the lack of 1 minute epoxy for quite a while. But let's get back to the Jupiter 2 in question here. I'm going to go ahead and pop the top off of this and catch you up with where we are, if I can. I'm making sure not to pinch any wires that might have been trapped there. The top deck, the pilot console was not fitting in very well, and then I remembered that I hadn't pushed it down the whole way because I was waiting to do some last minute touch-ups before I did that, because that's one of those things that you only want to do once. So best not to push it down until you're entirely ready. But now that I've got the epoxy in, I can do a bead of epoxy or remove some of this hot glue and do the epoxying around the base of the perimeter there. So we're going to start on the console here, and I want to apply, well, let's get these chairs out of here. Let's just get the chairs out of the way. I need to glue down the photo etch that is going to go over top of these openings, but first I have to put down the decals that go in those areas as well. I'm thinking of touching up this edge of these three computer consoles, only because they are the single most visible thing. When you are looking in the big window, that's the first thing you see. So that seam right there needs to be cleaned up a bit. Let me yank some of these sidewalls out. I think what's gonna be handy is to kind of like put a wall in, glue it in place, let it cure, and then kind of build out around in a semicircle like that. But come on. This is why I said you only want to do this once. Okay, before I get into the nuts and bolts of working on the front console here, there's a couple things I'd like to do, and that is to put some reinforcing posts under the floor in this spot and in that spot over there. It's just basically equidistant between the landing gears, where the floor has the least amount of support, because I'm going to be doing a lot of pushing and putting some weight on this. So I would like to go ahead and do a little bit of the old reinforcing before I close up too much area, and it's not easy to get to. These should both be the same size. I just need to put one under there. You can see where the floor is kind of bouncy, right about there, and then one over here. So let's get those put in. Okay, so I've stripped all the walls back off. I need to clean off the floor here, because I'm ready to, now that I've got my epoxy, I'm ready to put the bead of epoxy around everything. I've got the 2 posts in now. That's a nice solid piece there, and that's a nice solid piece there. So I need to put a little bit of weight on the front of the floor here so that I can, well, let me flip this around. See, we're getting to the stage now, everything is in the base, that I have to be extra mindful about keeping my workspace clean, because this thing takes up so much room that there's no room for extra crap around. So but you can see this has got a little bit of give in it still. I want to have that securely nailed down, so I'm going to put a little bit of weight on it right about there, and it's the weight of these nearly empty epoxy sculpt tubs. That'll hold that down against the bottom piece of the hull, and I can just run the bead now of the epoxy and get everything nice and secure, and we can start from a good foundation. And I've managed to use up almost the whole tube, just getting myself caught up to where all of my hot glue has been reinforced now with the epoxy, and having just this little amount left. There's not much sense in keeping it, because you're going to end up losing the usefulness of the syringe tube. It's meant to be used just the one time, so I'm just going around and squirting out this last bit. There you go. Okay, so we're done with this first one. Yay, one down. Million to go. Okay, we're concentrating work now on the pilot station, and I think it's fair to say this is where the work starts to slow down, because we're starting to work with tinier parts and lots more detail. So what I'm going to do is take the center panel here. This is just very thin white sheet styrene that's going to go over top of the yellow bulb that's in the floor. I have portioned it off. I've back walled it and all of that, and put some silver tape inside there to help concentrate the yellow light, because it's not as strong as the green bulbs on either side. And what I need to do is take the provided decal, and I've already marked out on it where the hole is for the photo etch piece, and I'm just going to slide the decal behind where the photo etch piece is going to go. And then I'm using these other two photo etch pieces for the other two, and I'm using the stock kit decals on top of them, and then we'll start putting all those in place. Now the green lights here are so strong that every light that comes through these holes is going to be green. There's no way to recolor that, but I may be able to get away with recoloring some of the holes here, so I've mapped those out, and I might paint some red, clear red Tamiya on this that will in turn turn orange when the yellow bulb shines through it. But it might give me some breakup in color. These are going to be green no matter what. That green color is just too strong. Work is continuing on the main console, and I had a bit of a fit issue, a fissue if you will. I wanted to use the photo etch for these two consoles and the stock decals. Well, the stock decal is much smaller than that opening. So what I decided, it's actually a little bit smaller than the clear insert that it's meant to go into, the kit part. It's actually small for the kit part as well. So what I've done is I've taken that kit part and I've sanded off everything that wasn't the ring. I have painted these rings up so that you basically have something like that. I'm going to fit that inside the hole and then put the decal inside the ring. That's going to make up all of those differences in the thickness, I think. I just need to let that dry a little bit more. That's the Tamiya black, and it's on nice and heavy to provide light block, so it's a bit touchy right now. But it looks like what I need to do is to darken up even around the outside where these rings don't quite fit, something like that. That's going to give it a bit of dimension, and then by the time I put the decal in it, I think it's going to look quite nice. Well, this is taking a little longer than I was hoping. Of course, I think it's fair to say the pilot console is probably the most involved of what I'll be doing, maybe outside of the astrogator, as far as the level of detail and the amount of work that I've had to do that wasn't already done. But I've got the last two decals soaking for the two side radars, and those will go in there, and then the whole thing will get plopped in to these pins right here, and I think we will end the day gluing these walls in and the console. I have to put some sort of pressure on the front to hold it down, That's easy enough. I can do that and tack it from the back side. And then I think I will put a bead of epoxy in from the inside to seal it down in place. And then the last thing I'll do today will be to put the chairs in place. And then we'll call this much done. And that'll set us up for doing these two sections and as much as I can get done following along that wall tomorrow. Alrighty, like I was saying, the green lights are very strong. The yellow light's kind of wimpy. I wish it were a little stronger, but you can see how those green lights really overpowering everything else. Although the decals look good in the center on the radar screens, that they covered up just enough of the green light to be nice. Now there is some light leak coming in through there that I need to tamp down. Once I push this in place, it'll take care of it. But yeah, that's the console down. Now the photo etch makes an excellent light block for all of the places that you don't want the green light to come up through. So granted, again, you're going to see in through there, so what you can see is looking pretty good. Okay, so I've got these main walls in. This is only up there to help keep this wall vertical. This piece is only in to keep this wall straight up and down. This is just in for show because I was looking at it. I still have to do some detailing on most notably the fire extinguisher before I can put that wall in place. But I'm starting to look at what's coming up down here and painting some details so that they can be drying overnight, and I'll be ready to work on them in the morning. But for right now, this has got the JB Weld in and around it, kind of keeping everything supported. I can flick the light on, and the light only stays where it's supposed to. It doesn't shine out underneath the seats. But that's good. That's ready to go. And looks good from the front, from the top. What you'll see on the window looks good. And trying to keep because this is the very slow curing JB Weld. It light blocks as it goes, which is why I use it. And it self-levels, so it creeps down and seals really well. But you have to let it sit overnight to get the full effect. So that's done. The chairs have been glued in. Like I say, these walls have been glued in. So we're ready to call it quits for today. And tomorrow we will start tackling this area. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, and work's continuing on the walls of the Jupiter 2, and I have temporarily removed said Jupiter 2 from the workbench, moved it into the other room because today I'm going to be working on all of the cubbies and controls and the wall units, and then I will be ready to glue them down into place. But it's easier for me to work on the individual bits if I don't have the big honking hull in front of me. So first thing I realized this morning when I set out to do that was that I in fact need I need a new brush. One that won't make me sick. One that won't paint a line too fat or make it fat 3 feet thick. Apologies to Huey Lewis. But my tiny brushes have seen better days. Luckily there is a Michael's not so far away that I can go out and get a small brush, because things like that panel and the individual little lights and dots, I can't quite do it all with a toothpick. Sometimes you need a brush, and I am just waiting for the store to open. So I'm getting all of my stuff ready and laid out and prepared for that eventuality. And I'm seeing what parts I'm still lacking that are in the box here, or clear bits. Getting all the walls ready now. In the lighted section of the wall, I say lighted section, the front edge, the bit that has lights in it, My template set actually handles that with reflective vinyl, the kind of stuff you see on a highway sign. And what you do is you lay that in the channel here, and then when you shine a light on it, it reflects, hence the term reflective vinyl. But I just lay it. It also does the nice thing of covering up that seam down the middle, which can be kind of tough to sand out. A lot of times you have to use a filler to take care of it, but this will just lay, and it's thick enough and sticky enough that I don't have to worry too much about it peeling back up. It's just gonna lay down in there. I burnish it down with a Q-tip, and then cover the end here where it goes down to the floor, and then trim off the excess. There you go. And then when you shine a light on that, oops, there's a second piece that goes right up in here, handles that top part. Just pull it over, mash it down. The effect doesn't always show up on camera, but if you take a flash picture of it, it is very noticeable then. But there you go. Okay, you'll have to forgive me. I kind of got into a groove and forgot to turn the camera on. You know, they say a new broom sweeps clean, and the same is true for a new paintbrush. A new fine paintbrush paints a fine line, and that's what I've been doing today. And everything on the Jupiter 2, and I mean just about everything, has a chrome accent strip around it. The doors have a chrome accent strip. The alcoves all have chrome accent strips. And nothing is better than a brand new fine line paintbrush when it comes to painting those accent strips. And I've been going to town on stuff that you'll never ever see because of the angle of the walls. But now it's time to put some stuff together. I'm going to start with, been working on this the wall that has the ladder on it, and I'm thinking the best way to do that is to take a step and let me see if I put the step in first. Yeah, I think I take the applicator, put a little drop there on each hole, and then put the step into it. I think that's going to be the best way to go. Okay, there's a couple things I'd like to get finished tonight before I close up so that I can kind of keep on schedule. I want to get a couple of walls in and healing and curing overnight. Even though you won't be seeing this wall, I went ahead and finished it out. The good news is I put in a new operating system for the Jupiter 2. The bad news is it's HAL. So as long as the Robinsons mind their business, we should be fine. Of course, maybe HAL will take care of Dr. Smith and we won't have that problem to deal with anymore. But I'm going to go ahead and get these two walls in at least, so that when I start putting the walls in tomorrow, I'll already have a stable wall to go against. And I think what I'd like to do, I was talking about starting here and working my way around. It looks like it might be better to start like I have, but work from both sides out, because that way I won't be constantly working against a wet wall, so to speak. It'll give them both a chance to dry and the epoxy to set as I'm working my way around. Now I have taken these clear walls from the freezer area, and I have sprayed the back of them with a flat clear to frost those. And I can go ahead and put one of them in and then do all of my building up against it. I can do that from the front side. So I can do this much of it tonight. Good morning, folks. It's Wednesday already. The week is flying by. And again, I've got the ship off of the workbench right now because I'm working on some of these alcoves. And last night I did a tricky thing. I went through and figured out which ones of the wall units I could go ahead and stick a partition to, a radial partition to, and that not only gives me a better way to hold them, but it gives me an easier way to stick them down to the floor when already I've got one half of the wall in, or these joint to one side of the wall. So I went through and did that to the wall units that I could work on last night. That'll go something like that. And again here on this one. So now I can go ahead and finish these up today. I am working on the freezer tube walls. Freezer tube walls need to be painted. The frameworks of them need to be painted silver. And rather than trying to paint a bunch of long skinny lines freehand, I figured the best way to do that would be to go ahead and mask off the center areas and then spray the silver on them. I'm also working on the tubes themselves. You want to keep the actual side walls of the tubes, the clear parts, you want to keep those clean as long as possible. So I've kind of left those in the box and kept the packing sheet foam around those just to keep them nice and safe. Gonna go ahead and glue in the walls here to the back inserts. I've got one of the inserts already attached to the ship, and I will be able to push the one onto the front of that. But these will be easier to deal with as one unit. But before I can do that, I want to make sure I've got all of my detail painting cleaned up here. So we're getting down to just the short amount of pieces. So I think we're gonna have no problem getting this thing buttoned up this week. I'm looking at these type of parts that also need to go on those back walls, and they will go in. I can put the wall in place and then attach these after the wall is in, because I can maneuver those pretty easily. I'll do those the same time I do the big freezing tubes themselves. So I'm just rounding up a bunch of stuff that needs the same silver paint. So once I get all these ready, I can put the silver paint on that. I can also touch the silver paint on the tops of the tubes and these any places I might have missed in the spraying of these guys. So that's kind of the assembly line that I've got going here. Working on the center, I've got to get that long numerical decal put on the side of this, and then it will be ready to be put together. So yeah, I mean, we're coming down to just a punch list of tiny things that need to get done. So okay, it looks like it's time to put in another few sets of consoles. I think we'll do the ones over here to start, and then we'll work our way around this way. So the next one to go in is going to be this big guy here, now that I've had all the detail painted and the decals put in place. I think what I'd like to do before I say sayonara to this is to put just a light coat of the gloss varnish over top of the general alarm decal, just so that that's sealed in. The rest of them are small enough that they will stay sealed, but I just want to brush them. Brush some clear over that. little too much. Let me dab some of that off. There, good. Okay, now it's ready to go in. And that needs to get pushed down. It's going to make a satisfying snap here in a second. Let's spin this around a little bit. Come on, you can do it. Start by putting this wall, there you go. Put the wall section in first. Okay, so we'll do all of that and start doing some gluing from the back, and then I need to clamp these two wall sections together. There you go. Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll run the wiring. Okay, so we're coming down to the wire, quite literally. I have got all of these walls in. This is the last one, and it's bendy. It's nice and bendy, so I can fit it in and around some other things and make it fit. That's not going to be a problem. The next thing to do really is to finish off these back walls, put the details that I painted today into the freezer walls. I've got all of the bases for the tubes in. What I need to do is finish the back walls, and I can kind of build the tubes in place and stick them down to the bases. I've got three the posts that go in there. I'm quite eager to see how this is going to look all lit up, so I'm going to grab the power pack and get it all set up. But all of these walls are now good and solidly in. Really, the last thing to do is the astrogator, get that settled. Get the freezing wall settled, like I said, astrogator, and then the ring that goes on the top with the ceiling lights, and we will be ready to close it up. Okay, so this is actually looking pretty hot, if I must say. Let's get the, let's place this in just in a rough position here. And let's see, put this in. Where is my little tiny Jupiter? My drop of tiny Jupiter goes right here. Don't have the dome on it because, like I said, the glass or the clear parts are being kept sequestered so that they will be nice and clean and won't be scratched up when comes time to use them. So this is all looking good. Nice general yellow color here. I need to aim that red LED just a little bit more. It looks pretty good. Of course, the green lights up front look pretty good still. Yeah, and then these guys I gotta mount to this back wall. I just need to figure out the best way to kind of suspend those in midair. They're gonna end up hanging around something like this. I just need to build some sort of frame for them. See what that would look like from... Oh yeah, those are looking nice. Yeah, just put a blue, and the further back they are, the more diffused they will be. I was taking the masks off of these cooler units, radiator units, whatever you want to call them, and I was thinking, ooh, geez, that's probably something I should do on camera, just to show how simple it is. And then what you do is you just pull these off just like this, and you get a nice now these were never ever supposed to be completely light blocky. They're meant to be a dark shadow against the lit wall, which they will accomplish that task. But then you put the little gold bumpies on it, and then you pop them in against the you put them in, let me grab the camera, you put them in these walls here. So let me get the rest of these done and I'll glue them in place. Okay, it's time for something semi-momentous. Semi-momentous. I need to put this last section of wall in, sliding it down, hitting the little pegs, and it will be done. That would be the last of the perimeter walls to go in. So I figured I would put it on camera. What I need to do is to lube up all of the mating surfaces with a bit of glue, and just slide it in place. Alrighty, for the last step for today, I just went ahead and I put the ring on the roof ring down. Now, this is not glued. This is not doing anything but holding the walls in their correct orientation while all of this sets up. I will come back to this, and I still have to do a lot of work inside the freezing unit walls, so I will take this back off. But what it's doing now is just keeping all of the walls straight up and down, or these dividers, keeping them in the right orientation. And it's showing me how I can probably come in here and do some clamping when it comes time to attach this permanently. That's going to help tremendously on that. And then of course all of the lighting will get fed down through here. All these bulbs will need to be altered. They'll need to be, bent over 90 degrees, that kind of stuff, so that the roof will fit on top of this. This is the back if you'll remember last week, that far back, this is the one weird bulb, the shortest bulb. So I think that's going to have to go there, so I'm going to have to make that hole larger to fit it. But I want to make sure that all the other lights have plenty of slack in them before I start bending these over. So it will go something like that, and then we can, as we're epoxying the lids down, or the roof down, the ceiling ring down, we can also epoxy the bulbs in place. Let's see, grabbing the wires as they come, and then that would go there. This is the shortest bulb, it goes there, and then next longest goes here, so I need to bend that over. It goes like that. And then the last, final, longest one goes all the way over here and then joins back through here. Okay, so that's the one that needs the, it's just weird that this is that one wide bulb. But that's how they're all gonna fit in when that magical time comes and we are ready to, I think we'll do something like that, and then all the way down, do some more wire tidy. One of the really great side effects of having that ring on the top of all the walls is it gives me this nice level surface so that I can flip the whole thing over and put the masks on the fusion core openings so that I can get ready to paint the bottom hull. And for those of you who think that the cool lights are maybe a little bit too, or the cool LEDs are a little bit too cool, you could leave those yellow masks on if you wanted to and really play up the yellowness of that fusion core. But that's not really what it's there for. It's there to block the holes so that I can spray the silver over all of this. I'm still not exactly sure which silver it's going to be. It's going to be a metallic, but it's not going to be a chrome silver. That's too garish. It might be the Tamiya mica silver, or it might be an automotive silver that I have yet to discover. So I haven't quite sussed that part of it out yet. But I've got all the masks down now so that I can paint that color when it comes to it. And then here are in my hands, you can see these are the two lights that go up in the upper dome. So we flip the whole thing back over. There you go. And we're in good shape to pick this up tomorrow and be able to go from there. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the gateway to the weekend, and I am finishing up what little remains to do inside the cabin of the Jupiter 2. Put everything in on this wall this morning. It kind of went real quickly once I got started. All of the tubes are in, they're drying. It's been a symphony of microcrystal clear today because dealing with all of these clear pieces, you don't want to use CA. It's going to fog it all up. Because everything is vertical, I'm hesitant to use clear epoxy because that just runs. It's too thin. So it's hopefully the microcrystal clear will dry, you know, to its namesake, and dry crystal clear, and that will take care of all the chrome parts. Now what I can do with epoxy, I'm just pushing these guys down, what I can do with the epoxy is take all of this stuff that's happening on the back of this wall and just dot some epoxy on here, and that'll lock it in from the back. That's about all we can do. And then once I put the lid on it, which is the next big step, that will hold a lot of this stuff down in place. Like, I'm not going to glue in the cage of the elevator, but the roof will hold it in place. Things like that. So what I want to do is, at this point, while I'm waiting for these freezing tubes to dry, because crystal clear is nice, but it does take a while to dry, is I'm just going to mix up a dot of epoxy. Don't want to use the 1 minute stuff for this, because I don't. When I can use something else, I'd rather, and save the 1 minute stuff for when it's really needed. For some reason, this looks like this needs to be pushed back. There we go. I want to see them protruding a little bit out of the back here. This tube does not want to stay down. I don't think it's got enough glue on it. It might need some more, so we'll get that out of the way. And we'll just set that over there for right now. And I will glue in these wall panels. Alright, I decided the weapon of choice for the adhesive on this was going to be CA. Now you say, Lou, CA and clear parts, that's always been a no-no because it causes the clear parts to haze up. And I'll say, yes, you're absolutely right. CA and clear styrene is a strict no-no. Because it will cause the CA, or the CA will cause the clear parts to get all hazed up and crazed and all of the other aged words. And I don't care, because that's exactly what we want to have happen in this instance. This back wall is frosted anyway. What's a little bit more hazing going to do to that frosted wall? Nothing. Nothing. It's going to do nothing that's going to harm you at all. So go ahead and use the CA. This is a wonderful instance for that. And I'm just hitting it with a little bit of the accelerator here. But you know what? That dries right up, and it goes back to being a frosted wall. So absolutely no problems using a little bit of CA there. As a matter of fact, I may go back here and hit it again with another, just a controlled spray of flat clear, just to haze that over again, just to reinforce that. But we're going to let all of that cure for a second or two. And now I am very careful to keep the parts that I want to keep clean as far away from this CA as possible, That's still, you know, a standard operating procedure. But all of these guys, well, see, for some reason you're not glued in. So I'm just going to start pulling out the ones that aren't sticking and putting them over there so I can glue them down. These were never glued in. These posts here were never glued in, so I'm just getting them out of the way. But all of the tubes that are left, this one is fighting me. No, it's in. I think I'm going to take just a little tiny dollop of clear epoxy, put it on the pad, and push the tube back into it. And that will, outside of the astrogator, that will finish the interior of the kit, and I will be ready to put the sealing ring in. So let's get these last tubes glued back down, and then I will put the big ring on the top, and that's going to use up another hefty chunk of the clear epoxy, because those will all be clear epoxy. These joints will. I'll tack it with CA, and then I'll reinforce everything with the clear epoxy. That seems to be the best way to go. Okay, the tubes are glued down. They got little spots of epoxy on them, the ones that were stubborn. Now we're getting ready to put this big ring on, and the big ring is a big deal because of the fact that, there's one little piece that needs to go up in here, because that's what's really going to lock everything together. And there is, if I could find where it went. Okay, see if I can find where it went. And I don't see it. Where did it? Oh, here it is. This last little speaker grill thing that goes up in the roof. There we go. All sorted. Now, we are ready to attach this down. And like I said, I'm going to spot glue it with some CA, and then I will do the massive, even some clamping, and then we'll do the epoxy on top of it. Okay, before the next grand smearing of epoxy, I am simply taping down, using the silver tape, the bulbs for the ceiling, and we've come to that momentous time where we've got this large bulb that is so much bigger than the ones that go around it, so I have to enlarge this hole right here to make it fit. But first I need to bend it. Let me get my bending and reaming tools out. No, they are not the same thing. The bending is this round needle nose plier. I'm just using that to bend the LED, and that's going to sit like that. So now I need to use said reaming tool to make this hole just a little bit bigger. Sorry, I get the camera away from, move it over here so you can maybe see what's going on. And I'm just making this hole a little bit bigger. Oh, not quite yet. Better to undercut it and check it several times than to make a hole that's too big. Beautiful. Okay, that will fit. And we tape it down and we move on with the rest of them. Once all of these are taped down, of course I will plug it in and try it out, make sure everything's working. But then I will just lather the top of this with all of the clear epoxy, the 1 minute epoxy, so that I will be able to lock all of these tabs in position. And while that is setting up, I think I will go out and mow the front yard because it is in dire shape. I've been waiting for long enough dry days. I have to have, I think I've said this before, I have to have at least one dry day completely before after the rain to mow the yard, and it's been that it was been off and on raining every day for the last week or so, but I think I've had enough of a respite that I can go out and mow at least the front yard today. I'm just training all of these wires down the side, trying to avoid them showing up in the back window of the door here. Now I know that I've got precious little room here. The hull is very close. As a matter of fact, this rim here pretty much touches the ceiling of the model, so I got to make sure that nothing sticks up above that, or else it's going to be a sticking point, and that's no bueno. So I'm just doing some wire tidy, trying to make you proud, Wayne, and taping down the wires as they go. Tape them down along that wall, and then run a piece of the silver tape over that to keep them nice and clean. I don't have to worry about these doors opening, so I can just tape right over top of that door. You can see how those wires are being trained down, and then straight to the board here. So now I'll do the same with these lights coming around this side. Alrighty, all the lights are on and nobody's home because I got no Robinsons in here. But we are ready to do the last bit of big epoxying for today. That's not true. I don't know how the rest of the day is going to go because I still have to build this bit of nonsense. But the big epoxying for the roof is going to happen now, and what that means is all of these wires and bulbs are going to get encased, and they will be immobilized by a heady bead of epoxy, and all of these stanchions for these wall supports, they will get buried. I will also be doing some touching up on the sides here to hold that down. And these last two bulbs over here need to be epoxied in place. So we put the tube on the epoxy and we go to town. Well, all of the epoxy on the roof is in, and it wasn't anything special. It's just I hit every bulb, every stanchion, enough to keep some of the wiring down. Not necessarily every piece of tape, but every bulb top. There's the top of these three posts in there. Also on the sides here, make sure this joint is nice and secure. But yeah, everything has just got a nice layer of the glue on it. So we're going to let that cure, perhaps do some yard work, and then come back to it later this afternoon. Oh, believe it or not, we're far enough along that I've been experimenting with hull colors, and I've got no conclusive results there yet, but we've got one last thing to do before we are ready to close this up. Well, we've got a small punch list of things we have to do. Of course, the astrogator needs to be finished. I'll go ahead and place that in the center now just to get it out of the way. Keep it clean. And cleaning up some other stuff here. And of course the lights have to be attached to the inside of the top hull. But right now what I'm most interested in doing is taking care of the blue lights that will shine into these bays. Now, one thing that I don't know how I feel about it, because I understand what they're doing, but I wish there was a better way to do it. And that is the blue lighting on the centers of each of these walls. It makes perfect sense to put one blue light there and let that shine over the center. I get that. Unfortunately, that puts them right in front of the blue posts. And these blue posts that are between the freezer tubes, they're beautiful. They're blue, they're shining, they're lovely. And I'm afraid that if you stick a blue light behind that, it's going to dilute the effect of it. I would much rather have had, a blue light on either side, which would mean 6 blue lights and not 3. But I'm working with the lighting kit I have, not the one I want. So I'm going to try to do that in such a way that the blue light doesn't drown out the blueness of the 3 lights that are already wired in. Let me see if I can put the power to it and maybe help elucidate. Throw some light on that subject. He said throw light, ironically. Let me go ahead and plug this in. It's kind of tough to do when I can't see what I'm aiming for. That's what she said. Okay, let's just do this so that plug that in. There, it's plugged in. Oh, I didn't even have it turned on. Okay, so here's where we're at. What a mess. Come on. Okay, here's where we're at. This is the issue. I've got these lovely blue lights coming up through these freezing tubes. And if I stick another blue light right behind it, it's going to drown that out and you're not going to see that as a blue light. So I almost want to move it over this way so that it's away from that. If I put a blue light here and shined it on the post, then it would split the light between these 2 sections. But that doesn't give any love to this one over here. I just need to hold that far enough back that it doesn't drown out this blue light here. And I'm having a Yellow Submarine quote rising up. Yes, your blueness. That's where I am. That's where I'm kind of stuck at that issue. So what I've decided to do is build a back wall here that's going to be sloped out, and it's going to bring the blue light as far out as possible so that it will shine over more of this area, but it will also not be as concentrated right behind the blue lights that we've already got. And I'm taking my cues from this angle right here because this tells me how far out I can come before I run into the outer edge of the hull. So anything I do is going to have to be smaller than that. It's going to have to sit inside of that. So I'm thinking if I make something that goes from here to here, straight from there to there, then that will sit inside that curve. Okay, I think I've got something here, and if you know my mantra by now, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. And I think this does work. I'm going to tape some of this up just to give a little bit of reinforcing here. But I think if you turn it around from the inside, let me put the camera down and do that thing. There we go. And spin it around. Let me see, I got the power cord here. So if I spin this around, you will see the lights on the back side. And it does light up right where those tubes come out of the floor. It does drown out the blue lights in the posts a bit, but you know, there's so much of that can only be avoided. Only so much of that can be avoided. So let me just solidify that back wall, and that's the last thing from keeping me from getting ready to button this thing up. Okay, the diffuser wall is taped in and epoxied in. I've got the 1-minute epoxy holding these bulbs down. I'll put a little bit of tape to double up on that, but I've got the whole top of this thing taped off and intermittently along the bottom, but that's going to give me my back wall lighting. Let's turn it around and see what it looks like from the inside. Okay, there's the inside with the blue light shining, but they're nice and diffused. They're not too sourcey. They accentuate the pipes coming down out of the walls there. See, there's a blue light, and then the other two aren't as direct because you're not looking straight at them. When you look at it from the ever important viewer, or the main view window, they will look just fine. gonna do something to block the green bulbs here from the front, because I may just put up a little wall, something like that, to knock some of that green down so that it doesn't shine out through the hull or any of the cracks or anything like that. Those green bulbs are very strong. Very strong. Well, hello everybody, welcome back. It's Friday, it's the last work day of the week. It may well be the last work day on the saucer, who knows? I'm feeling confident, but anything could happen. I've got one last bit to do, and that is to install the astrogator. And once that has been accomplished, then we can seal this up and spray paint the entire outside hull and be done. There may be a detail or two to pick at, but we're going to be mostly done. The problem is, or the issue at hand is, I keep saying problem, it's not, it's just an obstacle, is that we are to the point where I need to attach these lights to the inside hull, or the top hull, right above the dome. And once that happens, these two pieces are inextricably linked. The bottom and the top are inextricably linked, and I just don't have that much room on my workbench to have the two sides, the two halves side by side. So I'm going to have to do some major cleanup and some major reorganization here so that I can have a clean, clear path to what is going to have to be a one and done type of an operation, because as I'm seeing it, I'm going to have to put the epoxy on the top half on the pegs here, where all of the stubs where they go into these larger tubes, and then flip the whole thing down. It's going to have to be a slow acting epoxy so that I have enough time to do all of the jockeying that has to be done to squeeze it and fit it into place, and then I'm going to tape up the perimeter while all of that epoxy sets. I don't know how much glue I'm going to have to put around the perimeter. It may be something that once all of that is set, I can kind of, wedge open a little bit, put a drop of the MEK in there and let it seep all the way around. I need slow acting glues simply because of how much time it's going to take to get everything aligned. Anything that goes too quickly is gonna flash off or go hard, and is not going to be able to be worked. Now, there's one thing I have to test before I can do any of this gluing, and that is, I think this edge right here, I think this top edge is going to end up touching the inside of the saucer. And if that's the case, then I need to notch out where this wire is going to go, or else it'll make an unsightly bulge. And we don't like an unsightly bulge. That's what makes them unsightly. So I am going to have to map that out, try it out first, and then see where we're going to go. I also want to check to see where the least visible, if you look up through the window, you don't necessarily want to see this wire. It may be unavoidable, but I'm going to try to make it as unnoticeable as possible. Probably doing something like that, where you'd have to look straight up and in to see it. Maybe we can cover it with some other a piece of tape, or cover it with something that I can paint that's the same color as the roof. I don't know all that right now. So that's the last obstacle to getting this ready to close up. I wish I could. And I might just do it. I might just do it anyway. I think what I'd like to do, once I determine where this is going to go, I might have to snip this wire so that I can get that glued up into the roof. Maybe get it camouflage painted and all that, and then come down here and then rejoin it before I put the two halves together. Now I know it's got a jack that plugs into the bottom, but it also plugs into the bottom circuit, which is the single most impossible piece of the model to get to right now. So as much as I like what they did, if they had put a jack halfway through here that you could join and unjoin, that would have been a tremendous time saver. So I may have to cut that. We're going to see, but one way or the other, even if we don't get the thing painted today, we're going to get this hull closed up. Okay, I've got news, and the news comes in 3 categories: the good, the bad, the ugly. The good is this will fit down. It takes some finagling to do and some squeezing, but it can be done. With the right amount of taping around as I go, it shouldn't be a problem. The bad is well, there really isn't any bad. The ugly is, well, the bad is you don't really see too much inside, but we knew that was coming. The ugly is that the ceiling panel does not quite hit the ceiling. That's kind of also good, because that doesn't means I don't have to do any special channeling. But the ugly is it's not maybe as neat as it could be. If you had that frame going all the way up to the ceiling, it would be a little bit cleaner. But it just looks like soffit in a kitchen now, so we can live with that. And we see all of the, well, a lot of the interior, not all of it, but we see a lot of the interior. Really, the last thing to go in is the astrogator, like I said. It looks like the best place to run that wire is going to be straight through the center here, because that's the least amount of it that you will see. That's the least amount of it you will see unless you're looking straight up at the ceiling. If you're looking in, you see a lot of the back ceiling here, so you don't want to put that wire there. My question was whether it's going to go here or here, but I'm thinking straight down the middle is going to be the least obtrusive. So let's do that. And I do think I want to cut that wire so that it'll give me time to really camouflage that. Let me spin this around so you can see what's going on inside. So you can see in there, there is a goodly amount of detail that's available to you. Get your old eyes around in there. But oh, here's an ugly that I need to fix. There's some green light block that's happening, light spill that's happening on the front of the console here, between the console and the windowsill. And I need to take all this off. All that hard work, yes, it's coming off. I need to light block right in here so that green spill doesn't happen. Okay, I've got the front area blocked from the green light. I tested it under darkened conditions, and there is no light creeping up around this front edge. That's what the problem was. And just to be doubly sure, I am going to block with the silver tape the last bit of green reflection that is coming up through the plastic barrier that I made. And that should take care of the last of it. I'm getting a little bit, oh, I see a spot that I have missed. Getting a little bit of reflection right there. Right where my pinky was covering it and you couldn't see. I'm getting a little bit of green reflection right there. I'm going to cut just a tiny piece of that off. And that is going to block the last of it. Ta-da! Gone. Okay, let me get a handy tool to burnish everything down so it doesn't want to crop back up. Covers all the seam work this way. There you go, last bit of it. Some over here. There. Now when I put the top down, it should cover that. Now I've also put the astrogator in since you last saw. So, ooh, spooky. There's the astrogator in. We are notoriously close to closing this up. Got some other light blocking over here I'd like to do. I've determined that I need to cut this connection right about there. And if I can cut it there, then I can get it glued into the top of the saucer and then reattach it here. So let me make that last unkindest cut of all, and then we'll work on getting this mounted into the top of the saucer. Turn the power off. Unplug the power just so we don't short anything out. Oh, turn this thing around to where I can get to it. There, unplugged. Okay, let's make that cut. Again, I need to have that much slack. It's going to come straight out of the front. So my cut is going to be right about here. Wire cutters. And pachow. Okay. Let's take this off for a minute and go get the top piece. Alrighty, I just got the cover in now for the wiring. I put in a really thin piece of styrene sheet, really thin, something that would bend easy, and I just sloped it over top of that. I was hoping that I could blend that in a lot easier than I could if it were a hard-edged thing. So wider and thinner, and then this is just covering the circuit board. So now I need to pull out some of the interior paint this all up so that it disappears, and then we'll be ready to do the big attaching. Okay, so the wiring is nice and camouflaged there. I am ready to reattach the wiring together here, and then it will be time, my friends, to flip the top onto the bottom. So while the soldering iron is heating up, we will give one last tour of the interior while we can still see it. Actually, oh no, I'm going to wait until I've joined that up, because I don't want to turn the power on while these wires are still bare. These wires here are still bare, so I'll wait till I do that final soldering. Okay, I've got the power hooked back up, got the switch turned back on. You can see for the first time really this circuit in place. Now don't worry, this bubble is not glued down yet. I've got tape over the windows, but as you can see now, we've got the entire interior exposed in such a way that I can take some last pictures and last video of it before we close everything up. Take a long look at it now. I want to go over this with a fine-tooth comb and make sure every last thing has been dotted and crossed before I get ready to close this up. Here we can see the freezer tube walls, the elevator and stairs, the gyro and circuit boards, the communication station. Even though you won't be seeing any of that, it is still finished. And then of course the pilot console. And we can see the pilot console down through the front, what we'll be able to see through the front window. The astrogator is in place now and good and secure and never gonna come loose. We'll do a see if I can get back here far enough to do a shake test. Ain't nothing loose, nothing rattling, nothing coming out. So we're done with that. Everything that's in here is good and secure. And we are ready. Everything that is going to be glued, I'm going to be putting the epoxy on the bottom half and then fitting everything down, because I can just put some dollops on top of each one of these contact points, because these go inside of that, and these either match up or touch, so I can just put them down into the little bits there, and then I'll turn everything on its head and see what I need to do about dressing up that mid seam. So wish me luck, cross your fingers, cross your toes, say a little prayer for me, and I am going to mix up 15-minute epoxy. It is the slow curing stuff, as I've stated numerous times, so that it will give me the maximum amount of play time. So cross your fingers. Whew. I've got plenty of tape laid out, because what I need to do is I am going to, as I am working the edge around, I'm going to tape it down to hold it in place. And like I said, once that's all done, I'll come back and see about dressing up this edge. Okay, so I've got everything ready to go. And then I realized, I looked around, I couldn't find, I don't have any little mixing cups. I need a little plastic shot glassy things so that I can mix up enough of this epoxy to do it all in one time and have a little cup that I can carry around to dollop it into the hole. So I have to run a quick trip out to see if I can find some of the little tiny shot glasses. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to finish today. I've got all the tape on here and everybody is being held together and joined and all of that. However, I have a feeling there's going to be some sanding and some puttying on this seam before I can paint it. So that ruins my plans for today, because I wanted to get a coat of paint on this and be done. But it actually is a good thing, because it's going to force me to take the extra step that I probably should have anyway, which will be to sand this nice seam. Now the seam is very clean. It's very nice and overlappy and all that, but I could tell from the way it went together, it did not go together as cleanly as I would have liked, that it could stand to have the a sanding block run around the edge there just to neaten it up. But that is, I think, where the Jupiter will land for today. So here we go. We end week 2 with the Jupiter 2 wrapped up like a mummy from the Aztek dummy. Yes, I can't stop the rhyming. It's all in the timing. There you go. Did not get done like I wanted to today. That's okay. I got time. What I'm going to do is let this incubate over the weekend, and I will work on that joint, get it ready to paint, and so that I can probably, depending on the weather, it's starting to get iffy out there again, what day I can take this out, because it's going to have to be painted outside with a big old spray can. And I settled on my paint color, went to the auto paint place I normally go to and picked out a nice frosty silver. And I am ready to paint on this, but like I said, this will give me the opportunity to just the exterior here, give it the kiss of approval, and probably do what I've done before and make it a Monday, Tuesday quick finish, and then go on to the next thing. So until then, have a good week. Be good to each other. Be safe, be smart. Don't let your guard down. Virus don't care. So we'll see you here next time.